So many unknowns going into 2022. But in order to understand where we're going to go, we need to understand where we've been. Details coming up on this episode of DIY Sports Cards. Hi, and welcome to another episode of DIY Sports Cards, a production of IconicTradingCards.com. This is a place where we take a deep dive into the buying and selling of sports cards for collectors and investors alike. I'm Ramon, the founder of this channel. 2022 predictions. A lot of people going online making their bold predictions. For me, this isn't about making predictions on what's going to happen this year. Sure, I could say the market's going to go up, the market's going to go down. But in order to understand where we're going to go, let's have a look of where things were. You see, we are almost 2 years removed, 2 years from the start of the pandemic due to coronavirus or COVID-19. That's a long time, and a lot has happened since then. If you think about it, anecdotally, you've seen heavy number of people going into the market. They're saying that the government stimulus enabled these people to come in and start buying sports cards. A lot of people flippers started coming into the marketplace, buying and selling cards, buying raw cards, grading them, selling them, because there was once a time where PSA could turn around cards graded in less than 3 to 4 weeks. Those days are long gone. Since then, we've seen a market do a massive correction. And I think it's that correction that I really want to understand where we were in order to determine where we're going to go. Let's have a look at some examples that I pulled up that explain what I'm talking about. Okay, so the name of the game here is to look at graphs of sales history for some key cards that define the pandemic era buying. We're going to use market movers for this data collection. So here we go into market movers. What I'm going to do is click on price movements by player, look at graded cards only, and we're going to pull up players that have defined the era. First one we'll look at is, let's not look at LeBron, let's look at Kobe Bryant. Then you pull up Kobe Bryant, you pull up the filter player by name, you look at their cards, you sort by the number of sales performed in the last 12 months, because I really want to see the most common card. And the one I really want to look at is his base 10 1996 Topps. So let's pull up the graph. Alright, here's what his trend looked like. Now I want to include some pandemic era purchasing, so I want to go all the way back to 2020. And what I've realized is the peak of this transacting really took place on August 1. So here is Kobe Bryant's price trends for a grade 10 base rookie card. At one point in mid-August, the card was up to $5,293. It did fall off a little bit in the last part of 2020. And then in February, price spiked. There were transactions in the $9,000 to $10,000 range. Crazy price points in February. So you saw a dual peak. You saw one in early to mid-August, and then you saw a follow-up one in February 2021. Since then, that card has trailed on down to a point where the PSA 10 card is selling for $1,576. Big drop-off in cost, going from nearly $10,000 at one point all the way down to $1,500. Let's look at another card. Let's look at Luka Doncic. Same time frame, August 1, 2020 to January 4th. Similar trend as you saw with Kobe, except a little bit more prominent spike during the pandemic era. Luka was the guy. He was the face. This card was the face of all procurement, all purchasing and selling of sports cards during the pandemic era, during the shutdown. In August, we saw a peak value get up to $2,136. We saw again peak values again in February. Actually, this time it was closer to late January. This is when the season started up again. Got up to $2,000. And to this day, now that he's injured and kind of sitting the sidelines getting himself back in shape, that card is now selling at $450. This card annoys me largely because I bought his raw card right around August of 2020. Bought it for a decent price. I really wanted to get in on this. But PSA would not return my card until August of 2021. So I missed out on an opportunity to sell this card at a premium because of PSA's delays in grading. I believe a lot of you have suffered this experience, but that's what the market was. That's the pandemic era buying. Next card, Damian Lillard. Here's another guy that during the playoffs, during the bubble, had some pretty significant scoring, and the market showed it. His PSA 10 card for a 2012 Hoops PSA 10 got up to $600, highest point. Now it's sustained at over $300 for a little while there, for about a month and a half. It got up to that price once again come February and March timeframe. But since then, we have seen Damian Lillard prices tank once again to a point where it's almost just $107. Big drop off since the pandemic. Let's look at another name that really took some significant effect during the pandemic. Bol Bol. This guy had one good scrimmage where he showed his ability to block shots, shoot threes, but he was really slow on defense. But that didn't matter. People really bought into what this guy's potential was, and there was a hype around Bol Bol. His card prices for a PSA base 10 got up to $375 and actually hung up there for a little bit for a few weeks. Since then, that price has once again, we saw a little spike in January and February, right around the season starting, and got all the way to a point where at the end of the year, to just the end of this past year, that card price got all the way down to $13. Massive, massive drop off. If that's not FOMO buying, I don't know what is. Next one, let's move to a different sport. Let's look at baseball. Now, baseball, let's look at the iconic guy, the one who broke out during the pandemic, and that was Fernando Tatis Jr. Now, during the pandemic, during the lockdown, in August, Fernando Tatis, his graph followed the same trajectory as what Luka Doncic did. It spiked. Card prices for his PSA 10 got up to $280. It dropped again in the latter part of 2020. And then once late February and early March came, right before spring training, or during spring training, his card once again spiked up to $320. Since then, that card has plummeted all the way down to $105. Now there's a little bit of an uptick showing right now. So you could probably sell that card for $120, $125, but nothing close to the $300 that the market was seeing back in February, March. All right, let's look at the next card. How about Mike Trout? Now Mike Trout, he had the same trajectory, but not as extreme early on because this was probably the most productive player in all of baseball for the 2010s. And it showed it here. Prices for his card in a PSA 10, the Topps update, got up to almost $3,000 to $4,000. Never really got there. It wasn't until the market took off in February when his prices really started skyrocketing. His PSA 10 cards got all the way up to $7,500. And ever since then, it has plummeted. His injury didn't help the situation. In fact, it helped continue to plummet. But as you see, his card prices really dropped considerably to a point where it is back to where it was at the start of the pandemic. That is some crazy data. And what does that tell me? It tells me that between August and now, there's been a major sell-off of cards and people exiting the market because, quite frankly, they've made all the money that they can. They realize that going forward, it's going to be too hard for them to turn a profit on their investments in the short term. In other words, what's gone are the short-term buyers. What's left are those collectors and investors that have been in this for the long haul. So that's what it is going forward. My bold prediction for 2022 is you're going to get to the pre-pandemic days of how the sports card market was. You're not going to see the big spikes. You're not going to see cards like Bull ever hit $300-$400 in a grade 10 again on a base card. You're going to see card prices increase for the good old-fashioned reason that players perform, card prices go up. Looking forward to see what's going to happen. It's really not that bold of a prediction, but it's one nonetheless that's going to happen, I believe. Anyways, that's all I have for you folks today. Hope you have a good 2022. It's already up to a crazy start, but I hope your year is prosperous and you achieve all the goals that you set out during your resolutions. Stick to your guns, act on what you believe in, and you're going to have a great year. Stay safe, be healthy this year, and we'll see you all soon. Peace out.